YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and today we're going over the best players at each position for the 2020 NFL season here. If you didn't know, last couple weeks I've been going through my position rankings, player rankings at each position, top 32, and we're going to compare my number ones at each position to your guys' number one player at each position for 2020. After I posted those videos, I posted a poll on Twitter. You guys got the chance to vote for the top player at each position. So we're going to compare mine to yours. Maybe some of you didn't get the vote. You're missing out by not following that Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter, I recommend you make one. There's a link down in the description for that Twitter. It's at GoatHouse NFL. Constant NFL talk, polls like that, keeping you guys involved in future videos. Trying to reach 60K by week one of the NFL, so please subscribe. Please help us out by checking out both the channels there, the Goat House and the Goat House Plus. And we have a podcast as well. Again, anything you need there, if you need a link to any of those things, down in the comments and in the description of every single video. The quarterback was pretty obvious. We're all in agreement here. We're in agreement. My quarterback one for 2020 is Patrick Mahomes, and you guys voted for Patrick Mahomes as well, and you see the Twitter poll there. Obviously, there was semifinals for all of these position groups, but it came down to Patrick Mahomes versus Russell Wilson, quarterback 1 versus 2, and 76.5% voted for Patrick Mahomes. Not a surprise. It also wouldn't be a surprise if we got through the season and Russell Wilson maybe was the best quarterback, or Lamar Jackson maybe played at an MVP level again. And who knows, a guy like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady can kind of get back to playing at elite level or very close to. You never know. Maybe a guy like Drew Brees as well. Deshaun Watson can continue to improve. But, I think we're all in agreement. It's most likely going to be Patrick Mahomes here with the Chiefs. He's just getting going. So excited to see what he's got in store for the future with that giant contract of his. Well-deserved, though. For running back here, we're different here with the running back. So I went Saquon Barkley. And obviously these rankings are focusing on this upcoming season, and when you guys vote, the same thing. So I'm kind of predicting Saquon Barkley to, I guess, break out and be that running back one. He's built to be that. He's built to be the best runner in football, but he also has that bonus to his game as an excellent pass catcher, backfield and downfield. I know Christian McCaffrey has that as well. You see the finals between 4 guys there. You guys narrowed down the 4 for the finals: Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook. And McCaffrey took it 54.2%. Barkley did come in second there, then Derrick Henry, then Dalvin Cook. Who knows? Maybe Dalvin Cook's going to continue to hold out there. But, yeah, McCaffrey is such an all-around player. The definition, I guess, the best example in the NFL. I guess of that. And, with that new offense, a college-style offense, Matt Rule, Joe Brady, they're going to get him the ball a ton. So he might be even more involved, which is crazy to think about, in the passing game, as a receiver almost, whether it's lined up as more of a receiver or out of the backfield. The running game, he's still going to be excellent. For sure, still going to be excellent. If you take a look at that interior offensive line for the Panthers, though, it might be one of the worst in all of football. So that scares me a little bit. How many carries is he going to get inside the tackles there? Even inside the guards. So that's the part that worries me a little bit, but not to the point where I don't think he's going to have a good running year. Definitely is. He's one of the best. I think Saquon Barkley really takes that step. They kind of been holding him out with minor injuries, kind of playing it safe, smart. Now it's time to unleash him. You got the offensive line set. They improved this offensive line, mainly for the running game. Andrew Thomas, an excellent run blocking offensive tackle, and their guards kind of just get better. Will Hernandez, another year that he's getting better. Zeitler, another year with the Giants, it's going to help there. So I think all around, I think Saquon Barkley could be the best back for all those reasons. Derrick Henry was the best back in my opinion last year. He definitely can do it again. Dalvin Cook was looking like the best back the first half of the year, maybe right there with McCaffrey. Then injuries always catch up with him. Alvin Kamara can get back to playing where he was a couple years ago. So other guys definitely can. Nick Chubb was up there last year too. Other guys definitely. That's why it's interesting to talk this, because there's so many options that you're really not wrong. So it's very interesting to see what we ultimately choose here. For receiver, actually different here. I went with Michael Thomas, my receiver 1 for the 2020 season. The fans went for Julio Jones. So you see the voting there. Julio Jones, you see, pretty close. Nobody with a crazy high percentage. Julio Jones with a 39.1. And then Michael Thomas just edges out DeAndre Hopkins for that 2 spot, 2% difference there, or 1.8 actually. And then Tyreek Hill towards the bottom there. Yeah, anytime we're discussing top receivers, those same top three there come up every time. It's not a surprise. And you definitely can debate either one, but I feel pretty strongly about Michael Thomas. So if you're picking Julio Jones, I'm not really saying you're wrong. If you pick DeAndre Hopkins, not really saying you're wrong. There's even a case for Tyreek Hill. I just feel confident about Michael Thomas, because I think Julio Jones staying about the same. I don't see him really improving much. DeAndre Hopkins is switching teams, so maybe he can get more action, more production, but in terms of his game, I don't think he improves much. Michael Thomas actually could improve more, which is pretty darn scary. He's always been a big body, good, sure-handed, tough to bring down. Guy good anywhere on the field, whether it's sideline, middle of the field, whether it's red zone or not. I think what he's added to his game in terms of his quickness, in terms of his footwork, route running ability, has been ridiculous. He's always been solid at it, but what he's actually added in just a year, the difference between 2 years ago to last year, pretty ridiculous. So the thought that he can actually get better there, take another step, I think that was kind of what splits them up, even though it's very close. So it's a tough debate there. Julio Jones, definitely one of the better receivers of. Really, in terms of his build, his body, and what he's able to do on the field, kind of put him in the category of Calvin Johnson. So maybe one of the better ones of all time. Really, still my favorite catch of all time is his catch over Malcolm Butler there when Malcolm Butler was on the Patriots. Still probably I don't think it was the best catch maybe of all time, but it was definitely my favorite catch. It's up there. So I do like Julio Jones very much. I just got Michael Thomas number one. Tight end, we're on the same page. Back to being on the same page here. For the voting, the finals ended up being George Kittle and Travis Kelce. And Kittle won by, I think, more than I expected. What is it, about 39%? I thought it would be a lot tighter there. But we're in agreement. I went with George Kittle. And it's closer than that percentage difference says. Travis Kelce is such a big-time weapon for them, and you definitely can make the case he's the best. When it's that close, to me, it's that close. Maybe not for you guys. To me, it's that close. And you got to just find something to split up. Kittle seems like he's getting better every single year. Kelce almost feels like it too, but about staying the same, so that could be a difference. And then look who's throwing to him. You don't want to punish a guy, I guess, in terms of rankings or grades because he's got the best quarterback throwing to him. That's really not the way I think about it, but I think Kittle just got a little tougher task maybe in that way. So just very small things could split it up there, but we're all in agreement with Kittle number one. And then we got the offensive tackles. I did actually a separate left and right tackle. I did separate, and these guys on the screen were actually my number ones in both. So Mitchell Schwartz, my number one right tackle. Ronnie Stanley, my number one left tackle in those videos. If you haven't seen them, you can check them out. But if I had to pick one, the best tackle in football, I think it's Mitchell Schwartz. I think he does so much for the Chiefs there. Absolutely dominant in both pass protection and run blocking. Just doesn't allow anything at Patrick Mahomes. And if you watch, down the big games, the playoffs, the Super Bowl, ridiculous, and even dominant in the run blocking, which kind of goes unnoticed sometimes. It was a tough choice, though, because Ronnie Stanley is getting better every step of the way, getting better and better. They run more of a man blocking scheme or a power scheme there, and it's kind of a tough task. It's a lot easier, I think, for most tackles to run more of a zone scheme. You're kind of just mirroring the defender, and in this scheme, you see more of you got to push, you got to be strong. You got to get up there and drive this guy north and south, and that's very impressive because that's a tough task for Ronnie Stanley. He might be the best in that category in the business. So it is a toss-up. It is a toss-up. What the deciding factor probably was for me in my head was just how dominant Mitchell Schwartz was to keep Patrick Mahomes protected down the stretch in the playoff games, in the Super Bowl, games like that. So that was the slight difference there. But you see the percentages, pretty easy victory for Ronnie Stanley. So you like to see that. That people are seeing, the young tackle, respecting that, but really close for the other guys. Exact same percentage for Tyron Smith and Mitchell Schwartz, and Ryan Ramczyk just edges him out to get that second place for offensive tackles. So pretty cool to see how you guys voted for these tackles there. Interior offensive linemen, yeah, we're in agreement. I don't think there's really – Zach Martin's great. Two Notre Dame guys battling out, but he's great. But you just got to go Quentin Nelson. He was a sure thing a couple years ago in the draft, and just right off the bat, he's just that dominant. So it's always for so long. It's when you're watching live games, it's kind of tough to actually watch in not replays, in live games, actually watch the offense or notice the offense lineman because you're focused on the quarterback, you focus on the receivers, the running back, or the defenders, the corners who's pass rushing. But when you watch the Colts, when you watch Quentin Nelson, you see him without watching him directly, and that it is very, very impressive. Obviously, it gets noticed without even you trying to watch offensive linemen, which not too many people do when you're sitting down watching some football. So you got to respect that. But easy choice there. On to the defense, another easy choice. Aaron Donald, defensive lineman 1 for me. And for the fans, he's number 1. And I would actually say Chris Jones is pretty close, closer than most people. For me, closer than what other people would have. I think Chris Jones is that good. But then you guys had DeForest Buckner and Fletcher Cox in the running as well. But Aaron Donald with the landslide victory, 84.1%. Yeah, I think it's just the added pass rush to his game because he's not an actual edge rusher, but he's just as good of a pass rusher as the top actual edge rushers, and that's pretty ridiculous. So I think that is what kind of sets him apart and makes it very easy to choose Aaron Donald here. Moving on to the actual edge rushers here. We're in agreement again. I had Khalil Mack. You guys had Khalil Mack. I was actually surprised by the difference in percentage there, how much he won for. For me, I think it's a pretty easy choice. But I was kind of surprised because there's a lot of people that think there's a lot of good edge rushers. A lot of people that think Khalil Mack's the best. A lot of people that think T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, Chandler Jones. You can even argue some other guys, Von Miller, Daniil Hunter, and then you got a guy like Zadarius Smith. I think there's a group of people that think any one of those guys deserves a spot of being number 1 on rankings. But then the majority of people, 57.6%, voted for Khalil Mack, and then you got T.J. Watt in second, Chandler Jones in third. Myles Garrett, there's a group of people that believe Chandler Jones is number 1. So it's probably the next most, even though, I guess DJ Watt got more of the percentage. But I know there's a large group of people that really like Chandler Jones at the top, which very consistent pass rusher. But yeah, I'm actually glad that everyone's in agreement here, that people realize that Khalil Mack's the best, because I think too many people kind of base things off the year prior and kind of forget on who actually is the best, kind of. And Khalil Mack wasn't the best last year. But we all still know what he's capable of and how he can be the best. So I'm glad people aren't focusing on last year too much, 1 year. I think sometimes people do that a little too much. But they get healthy. They added some guys back, the Bears that is, around Khalil Mack there. They added Robert Quinn. So that should help Khalil Mack, take a little stress off him, take a lot of the focus off him. So that can help him have a pretty big year there. For the Bears, for Khalil Mack and the Bears. Next, we got linebackers. A disagreement here. I had Darius Leonard. You guys had Bobby Wagner. You definitely can make the case for a guy like Bobby Wagner. You could definitely make the case for a guy like Levante David, perhaps. Eric Kendricks played like the best linebacker in football last year, so if you're basing it off last year, I'm sure some people voted there, but he's kind of getting better on the rise. So you could definitely make the case for some of these guys. I went with Darius Leonard, and it's very tight, but just the reason that, when I think about these things in my head, Bobby Wagner probably at his ceiling, which is fantastic, middle linebacker. A lot of these guys kind of right around there. Eric Kendricks probably improving, but there's not a crazy difference on where he'll go. Darius Leonard just came in this league a couple years ago, and right off the bat, he was way better than he was supposed to be. Even the people that liked him in the draft did not see this on tape. This was not supposed to happen, and he's able to do that right off the bat, just being around, I guess, going from a small school, I suppose, to being around NFL talent. Now with more coaching, more developing as a young athlete, where is this guy going to get? Of course he's going to improve, even though it's hard to think about that because he's already so good. But I think that, what I just said kind of edges him out, and why I think, because this is for this year. This is somewhat going forward here because this year hasn't happened yet. So that is kind of what gives me the edge for him. And he's a total package guy. Having the pass rush, the blitzing factor to his game is that ultimate bonus too, because he's very, very good at it. But he has everything to his game. But how important that is. That's that bonus that kind of puts him at the top as well. Cornerbacks. Again, this is for 2020. I was predicting Jalen, even though Stephon Gilmore has been the best corner, has been tremendous, absolutely, beyond impressive. I'm going Jalen Ramsey. Plays like the best cornerback in 2020. He has the traits, the tools. It's about the time where he should be breaking out, based on his age and his potential. with the Rams. That's a pretty good secondary. Troy Hill opposite of him. The safety group's pretty good. You got John Johnson there to wrap. That's a really good secondary, I think. So it should play pretty well together. You expect him to be happier than where he was in Jacksonville. And we haven't seen him full seasons, and I think we see him the full season this year. They haven't reached a contract extension, which is kind of surprising because they traded so much for him. They definitely want to. I'm guessing he thinks he's worth more, or he's kind of waiting until he makes it known that he's worth more. Smart man. And he's going to play like that. He's going to play for that giant contract, and he will be the highest paid cornerback in football after this year. He's going to play like it. So that's why I'm banking on Ramsey playing the full season. That's why I'm banking on him playing like the best cornerback in 2020. Gilmore is it's even though I picked Ramsey, Gilmore is a correct choice as well. I mean, this guy is dominant. He's continuing to get better, even though he's not really necessarily young. Where he's come from the Bills, he was a solid corner in the Bills, but where he was then, where he is now, absolutely ridiculous. And, well deserving of the defense MVP, of course. So you guys voted 62.4% Stephon Gilmore, so a giant victory there. Was surprised how big that victory was. Close second, Jalen Ramsey with Tre'Davious White. Close second and third there. Then Marcus Peters coming in at 4. So that's, it's just how good Gilmore has been playing for the last several years. It's tough not to go him, so I understand why a lot of people voted for him. I thought Ramsey would get a little more votes. But yeah, I think the fact that we know he has the talent in him and he's playing for that giant contract, he's going to be out there. I would hope if he kind of sits out with, if it's injuries, it's one thing. But if we have a little bit of an attitude problem again, then I'm going to lose some respect, to be honest. But I don't expect that. I think he'll be out there, and I think he'll play like the best corner this year. And then to end it here, the safeties, I went with Harrison Smith, even though there's some really good young talented safeties that are coming for him. But Harrison Smith's kind of had this title for me for quite some time. I think what's, the do-it-all safety that is insanely important to his defense. But if we're talking, instinctive defensive players, I'm putting defense players, not safeties. I'm putting Harrison Smith at the top, so that would be the difference for me. To put him up there. I think if you take away from the Vikings, you're going to have some problems there with that defense. I think he's just that important. And then you guys voted for Kevin Byard, actually, who was my number one free safety. I just had a bunch of strong safeties at the top, but Kevin Byard. It looks like we're all in agreement that he's the best free safety in football. You guys voted for him as the best all-around safety in football at 40%. The playmaking safety for the Titans. But he does a bit of everything, too, even though he's a free safety, which is very impressive. Jamal Adams coming in second there, and then we see Derwin James and then Harrison Smith. Derwin James, Jamal Adams, I think similar to Harrison Smith, kind of do-it-all safeties. But these guys are the young, up-and-coming safeties, definitely ones to look out for the future. Derwin James, we only got to see for one season, so excited to see him some more. We'll see what happens with Jamal Adams, if there's going to be a holdout situation or not. But, pretty actually kind of surprised that Kevin Byard took that. I think he was at the bottom of the most of this poll, and then all of a sudden a late surge, and he took the lead there. So they're the top safeties. We have a little bit of a difference there. So it's pretty cool to see the differences here. So if you didn't get the vote, I apologize. You missed out on that. You're going to want to follow that Twitter for more things like this, more NFL talk. NFL season's coming up. I live tweet during games, about all the games, and we have full coverage here as well. But if you did miss out on that voting, please let me know your best players at each positions in the comments. Would love to see those. Please like, subscribe. Much appreciated if you could do so. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.